So
I don't know if that's a consensus. I think there's a lot of people swapping 2 and 3, but there is consensus that the Bills are the best team in the division. So we'll go ahead and start talking about them. We start at the top, Buffalo Bills. They would right now be my favorite just to win the AFC in general. I mean, you look at their roster, they probably have the best overall roster in the AFC, maybe even the NFL. It's obviously up for debate, but I think that if you look, they have a top 5 offense and a top 5 defense. And I don't know what other teams probably have both of those. Maybe there's some debates. At the top of my head, I can't think of another team. I would not put Chargers top 5.
On paper, 100% Chargers, 100%. I went over the Bills roster today. You are right though. Top 5 in both categories. They're amazing on paper. And the thing that stuck out to me was their depth. They have amazing depth, especially in the front 7. They have edge rushers out the ass. They have Greg Rousseau, first-round pick from last year. They have A.J. Epinesa, a second-round pick from 2 years ago. And they had Shaq Lawson, a veteran there. They have Boogie Basham from Wake Forest from last year. And now they have Von Miller on top of that. They just have Matt Milano. They just have edge rushers, DNs. They're just loaded. They have positions everywhere. They have depth everywhere. They have the best safety duo in the league, arguably one of the best for sure. That's been there for years, but they're just everywhere. They're all around, just really, really solid on paper.
Yeah, I mean, the defense was ranked number 1 in the NFL last year, at least when you look at the yards that they gave up. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, they did only get better on defense. I mean, I think that they did the best they could do. I mean, the only other duo they could debate is maybe the Saints, possibly, that you could debate. I don't even know if you could debate them.
No, you can't.
But the Bills, they have the best safety duo. They got a good D-line. Like you were talking about, they got Gregory Rousseau. They got A.J. Epinesa. They added Von Miller to that edge rush, who is a bit on the decline. That contract is definitely a bit of an overpay for him, but he still is productive at the end of the day. At Oliver. And then the linebackers, they got Matt Milano, who had a terrific year last year. And Tremaine Edmonds, I'm not the highest on compared to how some people view him, but he's still overall a quality linebacker who's going to help them big time.
For sure. But my main thing is when I was watching the Bills games last year, of course, Tre'Davious White was injured for most of the season, which it was a big loss, especially when you move Levi Wallace to cornerback 1. He's now in the Steelers. I think he was terrible. So now they have Tre'Davious back healthy. They have Teron Johnson as nickel corner, and then they have Kyer Elam.
Corners.
Huh?
Teron Johnson, one of the best
100%. And especially when he's getting balls thrown at his head at the combine. And Kyer Elam, first-round pick, height, speed. You never know, man. Especially in that Bills defense, he could be crazy as well.
Yeah, and I mean, the Bills were the best team against the pass last year, and they were without Tremaine Edmonds. They added Kyer Elam, who we got to see some Florida DBs recently at corner haven't panned out as we might have thought they would. But, I mean, I remember watching, like, his interview that he had with the Bills, I think it was, and he just seemed like a guy you want to root for. So I'm going to be rooting for him next year. Hopefully he's good for the Bills. But they are getting him and Tre'Davious White back, and they added pass rusher Von Miller. That defense that was the best against the pass last year has a good chance of possibly repeating that with those additions back. And then, I mean, obviously, on offense, you got Josh Allen, the top 5 quarterback in the game, possibly top 3 quarterback in the game.
He's top 3.
That's up for debate, but he's definitely in the conversation for sure. You got Stephon Dix, one of the best receivers in the NFL, possibly top 5 receiver. They did lose Emmanuel Sanders and Cole Beasley, but you got Gabriel Davis, who is in line to make a huge step. We obviously saw him make a huge step in the playoffs last year. He had, over 200 yards and 4 touchdowns against the Chiefs. Absolutely absurd.
Didn't end up mattering, but it was amazing, yeah. I would look around, turn around, next 5 seconds, another Gabriel Davis touchdown. I'm like, all right, well, this guy's about to get a crazy Madden card. But they also added Jamison Crowder, who is just very solid when he's on the field. He has injury problems, but I feel like that's the perfect slot replacement for Cole Beasley.
Yeah, he's been great for the Jets, and I expect him to be good with a better QB. I also like that they added Khalil Shaker in a draft. He was a kind of sleeper that I liked. What was that?
Shakir.
Yeah.
Khalil Shaker.
Yeah. Look, I liked him. I didn't listen to his name, but I liked what I saw from him.
No, I like him too.
And then Dawson Knox, obviously another receiver who had a pretty good year for them last year. Did he make a Pro Bowl last year?
I think he might have. Actually, I think he might have been tight end too. I'm not sure, but he might have. And then they also have O.J. Howard there as well, who was a question mark because he was never used in Tampa Bay. He was always behind Brate and Gronk. And that's exciting because it was a minimum contract. He's obviously going to get tight end number 2 there. Weidermeyer's not going to make that roster. The guy is terrible. So they have O.J. Howard and Dawson Knox. Like, they have depth everywhere, dude. It's
and I mean, O.J. Howard, I mean, he was considered one of the best tight end. I mean, this is like before Kyle Pitts, but like he was considered like one of the best tight end prospects we've seen in a while. Then he slipped in the draft a little bit, but I mean, maybe the Bills can use him more. And I mean, they added James Cook in the backfield. And, you know, I was looking at the stats, and the Bills, like, for their running back room, was a lot better of a running team. I mean, I think a lot has to do with Josh Allen, but they were ranked, I think they were top 10 in the NFL rushing. Yeah, they were the 6th best team in the NFL rushing yards per game, which
that's because everybody's scared of them throwing.
Yeah, but they were also up there in throwing. They were their top 10 throwing. Like, for a team that like them, Singletary and Zach Moss are serviceable running backs, but no one sees them as a real threat. You know, to be top 10 team, even though like we understand Josh Allen's one of the more mobile QBs in the NFL, I think is kind of crazy. And I mean, you add James Cook, maybe Singletary or Moss could take another step forward, and obviously with Josh Allen's legs. And this is another team that should have another year, possibly top 5 on offense and defense, like we mentioned before.
Yeah, for them not to come in AFC East, injuries would have to happen. But you're seeing this, and the Chargers. It's kind of like the Chargers roster minus the tight ends, but it's you hear it and you're like, okay, there's got to be a weakness on the O-line, right? Nope. Pro Bowler Mitch Morse, Pro Bowler Roger Saffold, who's never healthy, but he's a Pro Bowler. Deion Dawkins, who was a Pro Bowler last year. And then the only question mark kind of is their right guard and their right tackle, their right side of their O-line. They're both young guys. Spencer Brown is their right tackle, and the name's not coming to my head for the right guard, but they both played very solid last year.
Ryan Bates is their right guard right now.
Ryan Bates, yes. And then they have Ike Bodiger as a backup and Cody Ford as def as well. So they just have – it seems like they just have everything on paper, and they've kind of been backing it up the last few years. So they have no reason, and it hurts me to say this because as growing up as a Dolphins fan, you grow up just getting your ass beat every Sunday by the Patriots and not worrying about the Bills and the Jets. Now we kick the Patriots' ass every week, but we have to worry about the Bills. So it kind of sucks, but the Bills are just they have no reason in my mind not to be top 4 team in the whole league, and if not a real Super Bowl contender.
Yeah, and I mean for one, Spencer Brown, I don't think that he's question mark at all. He was absolutely outstanding last year. I remember he missed the game last year against the Colts,
he has
and it showed. He's still been great for them nonetheless. And I mean, he played only maybe 2 years.
I think he played 2 years, but I think he has a holding problem, but he is huge. Guy is 6'9".
Yeah, absolutely.
Huge. But he's not the greatest on his feet, but that's a 6'9" guy. That's what do you expect? But he has holding problems, but he can clean that up. Yeah, he's gonna be a problem.
Yeah, and I mean, I think if I had to pick right now, I mean, I'm not thinking too much about it, but top of my head, I don't see why the Bills would not be the overall Super Bowl favorites in general. Just looking at their roster, look at what they did last year. Like, I think if I had to place a bet right here, right now, on July 21st, my bet, if I had to make one, would be on the Buffalo Bills to win the Super Bowl. Like, that's how good I think they are right now. But the one more concern I do have, though, is they did lose their offense coordinator this year. Mm-hmm. And obviously, talked about they were one of the best offenses in the NFL. How much of Brian DeBall was how much effect did he really have in that offense? Will they be able to replicate the same success they had? So we'll talk about him a little bit more when we get to the NFC East. But he obviously is a great offensive mind, and I wonder if the offense does take a step back at all with Brian DeBall now gone.
Only time will tell. But yeah, like you said, if I completely agree with you on that. If I had to place a bet who would win the Super Bowl right now, it'd be the Bills.